Okay, hi everyone, welcome. We're here from Love is Respect for Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. We're going to be answering a few questions that you guys sent in through Instagram, Tumblr, Facebook, and hopefully give you some good education that you guys can take with you. My name is Mindy, I'm a digital advocate.
I'm Laura, I'm also a digital advocate.
And I'm Bree, also a digital advocate.
So feel free to comment if something comes up while we're talking, if you just want to give a shout out or say hey. We're here to just kind of interact with y'all for a little bit. So thanks for joining us. Bree, do you want to go ahead and start with question number one?
Yes, absolutely. We received this question. So I've been dating this girl for the past month. We hook up, we have dinner, etc., etc. And most of the time things are pretty great. I really feel like I might be in love with her, and everyone seems to validate that. The thing is, she has a really rough past. Not that long ago, she experienced physical abuse, bullying, and a 3-year relationship where she was hurt a lot. And because of those traumas, she has some psychological problems. For example, going to extremes with her personality, kind to rude, and then kind of just like fading into darkness. I really like her a lot, even with all of this, and I want to be there for her. Any advice?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it can be really difficult to love someone that has, experienced their own trauma and abuse. So, like, what you're feeling is perfectly normal. Like, feeling confused and overwhelmed by this is, completely valid. And we all get that.
Yeah, it can be really difficult to try to support someone who's gone through traumas who may not be totally healed from those traumas yet. So it can be really important to really have an open line of communication with your partner about what their wants and expectations are, and also maybe about where their boundaries are right now. You guys might have a really, what feels like healthy relationship most of the time, but like the question mentions some dark periods or some times that might not feel very right to you. So when all else fails, open communication. That's essential for any relationship to stay healthy, and also really talking about those boundaries and listening to what your partner might be needing in that time. One of the great things about our digital services platform is that we're able to share a lot of links to articles that are on both of our websites, both loveisrespect.org and thehotline.org. And there's a great article on the hotline.org that is specifically for the new partner of someone who has been through an abusive relationship. So I highly recommend checking that out. It's got a lot of suggestions and things maybe just to think about that you might not immediately consider when starting a new relationship with someone who's been through a trauma.
For sure.
Absolutely. And feel free to chat in while you're checking out those articles. We've got digital and phone advocates here 24/7.
Anything else to add about that one?
I mean, I would just say, as like Mindy mentioned, it's really important to respect those boundaries, and it's a very caring thing to want to support someone going through that, but sometimes they need to work through those on their own, so it's important to be respectful of that space for them.
Right, and it's never your responsibility to fix something that is going on with your partner. It's really important for them to be autonomous and independent and learn what they need in order to accurately heal from something that's really traumatic for them. So don't feel like just because you've entered into a relationship with them that you have to fix everything that's going on for them, because that's going to be a lot of unfair responsibility for you, and you might actually be hurting your partner in the long run because you don't really know what they need. So it's really important to have that dialogue with them.
For sure. I guess just, in general, you're not responsible for any of your partner's trauma or for healing them or anything. So you can always, just make sure that they are aware of that.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess next question. Okay. So question number 2. I'm 18 and gay. I've been dating a guy who is older than me, who's 23, and we broke up a few months ago. He's out of the country now, but we are still in touch. I'm so confused because I'm not sure about what I'm feeling. I think I'm emotionally dependent on him sometimes. He says rude things about me or my friends, and I just think that is because it's the way he is. And if I love him, I should accept him in that way, but it really hurts me. He says that he's seeing other people, but I can't let him go. So what do y'all think?
Okay, so there's a lot to go over with this one.
Yeah.
I think that we could spend a little bit of time on this and really unpack everything that's happening, because there's a lot going on. Bree, do you want to start?
Sure. First of all, breakups are hard. Those are valid feelings. The reality is, most of the dating relationships we have in our lifetime end, and that is okay. In the question, the person mentioned that their ex-partner was saying some rude things. That can be a red flag. It's not something that you just have to accept as they are. You deserve to be respected in a relationship, and you don't have to just, again, accept that.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that when you are young, when maybe you haven't had a lot of experience in the dating world, it's really easy to sort of believe that if someone gives you good times, if someone makes you happy, if you've really enjoyed being with someone in the past, it means that you also have to accept everything that they're bringing to the table, and that's 100% not true. Everybody deserves to be in a relationship that's respectful, that's equal, that has consideration, and that ultimately makes you feel good more often than not. So just because you might have had good experiences with someone in the past, even if they make you relatively happy 75% of the time, you should never have to endure behavior from them that hurts you. Because ultimately we here at Love is Respect believe that any sort of abusive behavior, any sort of unhealthy behavior is a choice. And you should never feel like you have to stay with someone who is choosing to hurt you in any way, because they have that choice. They have the ability to be rude to you. They have the ability to be kind to you. And it's not something that is just necessarily a part of them. It's not something that they can't control. Because if they couldn't control it, then they would likely be that rude to every single person in their life, and that would be a whole nother issue. That would be perhaps maybe something else that's going on with them, or something that just makes them an unhealthy person in general. And that's an entirely different that's an entirely different conversation. However, assuming that this person can control themselves, they do have that ability to take a step back and ask themselves, is my behavior hurting this person? Why am I choosing to hurt them? Is it because I want to control them? Is it because I want to demean them? Is it because I want to make them feel bad about themselves so that they don't go out and start dating other people? Those are all really important questions that people need to ask themselves, and that you also can ask yourself when trying to figure out where your partner's behavior is coming from.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, when you're in a healthy relationship, your partner is supportive of you, and they recognize that your friends are an important part of your support system. And, in a healthy relationship, they're not going to insult or, degrade your friends. They recognize that you have support outside the relationship, and that, the relationship is not just the one thing that you have in your life, that they will respect and support other people. And yeah, when you're in a healthy relationship, you feel safe and respected, and you don't question, your partner's motives, or and you don't question, what they're saying, or if they're insulting you. That's just, it doesn't occur in healthy relationships. So, and I guess the other thing is just since he is out of the country and the relationship has ended, it's important to focus on yourself. Focus on your own well-being and your own self-care, and maybe reach out to your friends and hang out with them more. Find things that you like to do for self-care, wellness, anything that really relaxes you, helps you de-stress, maybe helps to get your mind off the situation, can be so beneficial after a breakup. So really focusing on yourself is what we recommend a lot during breakups.
Yeah, it's also really hard to move on from someone when, even though the relationship is ended, their involvement in your life hasn't really ended. So for example, this person mentioned being really confused because they feel emotionally dependent on their ex, because they still keep in touch a lot. And so as hard as it is, we do tend to recommend, when you break up or when you leave a relationship, giving yourself some space away from that person. Whether that's needing to block their number, whether that's needing to delete them from social media and just sort of take some space for yourself, that can be really important, because it can feel really impossible to heal from something or to get over someone when they're still in your life, when they still have access to you, when they're still able to emotionally manipulate you or hurt you. It's kind of like, if you're putting your hand on a stove and you're saying, well, why isn't my hand healing? Why is it's just going to keep burning forever? Like, I don't feel like it's ever going to stop burning. Well, it's because you haven't taken your hand off the stove. You know, you need to put that space there. You need to give yourself that emotional and physical distance from them for that healing process to start. So as hard as that is, until you do that, it's totally normal to feel like you're incapable of it, but you're not. It's something that you are totally capable of, and you know, like was kind of touched on before, you likely have to do that a lot more in your life, because that's kind of just how dating is.
Yeah, and I think, after that healing has occurred, after you've been able to create that space and after you have moved on from the relationship, it can be common for exes to still be friends, once you have successfully moved on from that relationship. There's nothing wrong with exes being friends, and, a lot of times in our society, it's like exes can't be friends. Like, that's just not a thing that can happen. But we know that it's perfectly normal when it happens. It's just there has to be that space and that emotional growth before you can successfully become friends with an ex. Because I feel like if you try to be friends with an ex right after the relationship has ended, it can create a lot of emotional distress, and a lot of times it's very hard to do. So exes can be friends. It's just, you need to be able to move on, basically, and see that person as a platonic friend and not someone who, might still have romantic feelings for.
I think it is important to consider, though, if an ex, if that relationship was abusive, it's maybe not the best way to prioritize your safety to continue that relationship as a friendship. Certainly, despite what that ex may say, you're not a bad person for distancing yourself. You're prioritizing your safety, and you always have the right to do that.
Right. It's always okay to set up those boundaries to protect yourself.
Okay.
And we have a few more minutes, so we're going to touch on one more. So question number 3 says, I grew up in an ultra-conservative home where sexuality was shamed and exploring the human body was quote-unquote sinful. Sex education was just the abstinence model. I never felt safe asking about further sex education and body autonomy. It was always deemed as inappropriate. I'm wondering if you have any practical resources to help me get started learning about my body and how to be more sex positive.
Yeah, and I mean, you have the right to educate yourself about what healthy sexuality looks like and about your own body. We are big advocates of more education, and there's a great site called Scarleteen, and that focuses so much on just learning about sex, sexuality, and healthy relationships. So we definitely use that a lot in our chats, so we would definitely recommend that you check out Scarleteen. So that's a good one. And we also have a few articles on consent and what to look for in a partner. So if you just want to explore our website some more, you can definitely find those articles about consent and healthy relationships, because we're all big advocates for learning about what that looks like.
Right. It's very important to know, again, where your boundaries are, both emotionally and sexually. And it's really important to understand what consent is, when it's given, when it's not, and when it's taken back. Because you always have the right to take back consent, and you always have a right to decide, what's happening with you and your body.
Definitely. And on the religious aspect of that question, we have a great article on the LIR website about religion and relationships, because things can, feel confusing about what's normal, what's healthy, and regardless of your religious beliefs, the same things are still healthy or unhealthy in that relationship. So that's a great resource as well.
And real quick, it looks like a viewer, like we're on TV, this is our show, asked, what if my partner doesn't like my friends? So that is definitely a difficult place to be in. It's really hard. There could be a lot of really normal reasons why your partner and your friends just don't get along. However, we do know that it can be a really big red flag if your partner is trying to discourage you from hanging out with people that maybe nurture you or people that encourage you to be independent, because a lot of abusive relationships can be really isolating. So that can be a red flag to watch out for. It's kind of one of those things that it might be just something, people just not getting along, or it could be indicative of a really bigger, more serious issue.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one of the great quotes that I like to think about when it comes to in terms of like healthy relationships and unhealthy relationships is that in a healthy relationship, your world expands. So you are introduced to more people, your partner is supportive of your life outside the relationship. But in an unhealthy or abusive relationship, your world will shrink because the abuser or unhealthy partner wants more control over your life, and so they'll find ways to make you feel smaller, to make your world feel smaller. And a lot of times, like not liking your friends and degrading your friends can be a red flag. But you know, it's kind of situational. Sometimes people just don't like other people for various reasons. But if it's a pattern of like really controlling and really concerning behavior, it can be a red flag.
Right. Yeah, that was a really good question. Thanks for submitting that. We know that there's a lot of stuff that will come up if you guys are watching this or reading our articles. So you're more than welcome to reach out to us at any time. All of our services are 24/7. You can access us at thehotline.org and again, loveisrespect.org. Or you're welcome to give us a text. It's 22522 with the keyword love is.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, y'all.